Start streaming. All right, so we are live. At least it's telling me that. All right, so this time we're gonna be focusing on the model that we did the last time. I attempted it and I failed miserably, so hopefully this time we get redemption. But I did learn a lot, so possibilities are that we would get through with it today. Alright, so before we start, I just want to load a reference image. Let's go to bottle. Let's see. I'm gonna use this as a reference image. And then we want to use a cylinder. We're gonna drop the segments to 28. Problem is the last time the cylinder had too little segments on it. I think I used 12, and that was one of the reasons I was getting issues before. So we go to front view. Right, so we're gonna scale this. We're gonna bring an N. Gonna go to this, and we're gonna make these centimeters. So we wanna 23.7 centimeters. That's height, and then we want 6.5 on the X and the Y. 6.5 centimeters. There we go. So then what you're gonna do, we're gonna hit Control A, sorry. We're gonna apply scale, and then we're gonna scale the background image, then press zero and numpad to zoom up. Don't want to see that anymore, so press N. We're gonna scale this and just move it on the Z. We just want a rough estimate, and that should be there. So again, front view. We're only going to see it on the front view, and that should be it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just block out some of the shapes by adding in some loop cuts. So I know, for example, I want, if we're going to edit mode, with the cylinder highlighted, of course, Control R, gonna bring a loop cut here because I know that that's where we want to cut, and then Control, then bring a cut to about here, because again you're just mashing up here. So then what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna add some more loop cuts in here. So maybe around there would be fine. Thinking, we want them to be closer. I think that should be fine. And then we want some more loop cuts here, so hit Control R, and then we're gonna scroll up, and there is gonna be about fine. Just one more for good measure, and I like it. There is fine. So tab. So now we have some loop cuts. What we want to do is we want to drag up here, and we're gonna load in some more verify images, and I'm gonna go here, open, go to water bottle, and we're gonna focus on this part again. We did it last time, but this part was giving me a lot of issues. But I actually remade the model, and I've met some success. So hopefully this time around we don't have any technical issues. So again, right bottom, we gotta use bottom, and we're gonna start modeling this shit. Alright, so going to face select, we're gonna insert by pressing I. You want the shape to be about somewhere around there. Then we want to I again. We are making the section here. So that seems about right, but let's just bring it in a little bit more. So about there. And then what you want to do is we are going to insert again to about here. And I would say about here is fine. So now what we want to do is select some of these faces. Let's go back into bottom view. We want to select some of these faces here. Oops. There you go. Select some of those faces, and then we want to insert. Actually, you undo all of those first. Like these, and then do that. This is the last. I insert. Make it about there. Then what we're gonna do, I just want to get, we're getting that clipping issue. Hit N, go to view, and it's just going to increase our clipping distance, clipping start. And we're just gonna hit E, then GZ. We're gonna bring that down a little bit. Before to do that, I'm gonna tell you why. Let's go back to redo. Why it cancel that is because if you look here, you realize that we have this flat edge here. So it's gonna be easier to do it with when you make the changes now than later on. So I'm gonna go to select. We're gonna highlight these faces here. We're gonna scale them on the Y to 0. Then we're gonna grab it up a little bit. I mean, there's fine. There should be fine, but I just gotta bring it up a little bit. But if we undo that, we scale this up, for example, like there. Then we add our inset. We want to have y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scale on the y to 0. And I think that should be good. So then what we want to do again, go back to face. If you're wondering how I'm doing that without clicking the icons here, it's just, if you have a keyboard, you have 1, 2, and 3 at the top, and you could switch between the other modes. So I'm gonna hit E, extrude down, E, extrude down. And that should be able to give me the shape that I want. Alright. So for these faces now, you could hit Control. Make sure that you're again in bottom to make sure everything is even. They are. And I want to look at this from the back. Then go to X-ray mode. Go hit E, extrude. And I want to extrude with the edges. So E, C. Oops, I didn't want to hit E. I'm gonna hit G. Let me just make sure that I have everything highlighted again. There you go. So back. We're gonna hit, try to do E. E. Go here, and that's gonna align with this. Then what we want to do is come out of X-ray, come back to bottom, and see what we have. And that looks nice. So now what I gotta do, I'm gonna go to face again. We gotta delete these faces here. X face, and then we're gonna bridge them by going into face edge mode. And then we go. I mean, you can make this easier by using a mirror modifier, but I don't want to use one at this point in time. So just looking at the reference and trying to build up the shapes as best as I can. Hello, Snowman. How are you doing? Alright. So just looking at the shapes. And when you're using modeling, for example, curved surfaces, the more geometry you have, the better it's going to be. That's one of the things that I learned over the course of the week. Again, the last time that I was modeling this bottle, I had 12 segments on the cylinder, and that was why I was getting the issue. But the more segments you have, the better it's going to be for the subdivision. So what I'm going to do now is just going to add some support links. Loop cuts right here. Make sure that you turn off snapping. Just set it back to increment. I'm going to hit G. Add another loop cut here. And these are adding support for the subdivision surface. This. Then you want one for here. That's going to tighten up about here. And then what we could do, we could start testing with this division surface. I'm gonna crank this to about 3. Smooth. And now we are getting the shape from this bottle. But one of the things I'm going to do is that I'm going to extrude this part here, because as you can see on the reference here is a little bit deeper than how I have it. So I got to make those changes, and obviously the thickness between here is wrong again. So that's going to turn off that for now. Go back into edit mode, then go to bottom. And then what I could do, no problem. That's good. Glad that persons are learning as I am learning myself too. So we highlighting these parts here. I'm by no means the fastest modeler. Then we're going to grow the selection. Minus. If you want to get close, you just zoom in like this. And I know that some of those faces there, for example, we want to make sure that we get those faces as well. We're going to hit Control. There you go. And the reason I highlighted those is to delete those faces. Come back into Edge. We're going to select this ring. We're going to hit Face, F for Face. And that is going to allow us to make the changes that we want. So let me just scale this in a little bit. Not too much though. So you could hit Shift while you're scaling. And I would say, let me zoom back out. S Shift. I would say it to about here. But you take these faces here again. We're going to scale on the Y and 0. Then we're going to bring it down on the Y. Again, we're making that little detail right there. So GY, bring it down. I'm holding Shift. And what I'm going to do is, if you look here, there's a little kind of a gradient where it's going from thick to a little bit thinner. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to try to replicate that. And then I'm going to hit GY. That is going to give me the curve that I want. So now we could go again to face, extrude, and we just want to extrude a little bit. We want to choose a location where you could see where the extrusions are. So I'm going to go and see, bring it up a little bit. Then I'm going to hit E again, extrude to about here, and then E again, and extrude. That way I don't have to put in the loop cuts that I would use if I hit Control R, for example. So let's tab out of edit mode. See the shape that we have. Let me recenter my cursor to our origin, and let's turn off the subdivision surface and see what we have. So we have a little bit of issue here. We have some stretching, and that is simply because we didn't set the face. So we insert the face like this. and I will get rid of the stretching because the geometry didn't have sufficient geometry because the subdivision person surface was actually stretching the mesh. So yeah. So looking at the comments, we done a little step model and now start at the brand new text part. Well, what you could do is a number of ways you could deal with that issue. You could actually, in this case, what I usually do, I use a bump map or a normal map. You could use a bump map, normal map, or you could also use a displacement map. But if you want to use actual geometry to actually like text to actually put into the model, you would just need to use a text modifier and then use a boolean to cut it out. If I have enough time modeling this today, I will try to show you depending. But I believe that this is going to be up after the stream anyways, so you could always check back later as well. So if one of the things you notice is that the reference here is a little bit sharp, and here we don't have a sharp enough angle. So what you could do is you could go into edit mode first thing, and then go to item, and I'm going to use a mean crease for that. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in edge select, control, click, and then add a mean crease. That way you can see what has happened here. It's actually tightening up the mesh. So again, turn that off because I don't really want to add more geometry where it's not necessary. It may cause some pinching in there if I add loop cuts. And then also because if I add, for example, a loop cut here to tighten it up there, this loop cut is actually going to change the shape, and I could actually show you. If I do that and then I add my subdivision surface, you could see there's a line, and it actually distorting the shape of the model. So I don't want that. So undo. And the easiest way to combat that is by using a mean crease in this case. So if I come back out, now we see we have something that is closely fitting the reference model that we have here. All right, so moving along. So we're gonna fix this part here because as you can see, it's kind of flat and flush right here. So again, turn off this subdivision, but actually, before I do that, I just go to right click, create a chart, assign quick favorites. That way, knock it up. Let me just turn that off. Planning to learning that add-on at some point in time. Is it hard ops? Hard ops. There you go. So now if I hit Q, I could toggle between the two without having to go to the subdivision all the time. So that's another tip that you could use. Alright, so go into edit mode. We're going to go to back. What we want to do is, again, we want to add some structure here to make this part a little bit sharper. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to break the flow. So I'm actually going to take both of these edges, subdivide it. I believe it is the right edge that I do. And as you could see, it's going to stop the flow of the loop cut that I'm using. You could see before and after. This is before the subdivision. It's going all the way down the mesh, and I don't want that. So we highlight these two, and we hit subdivide. And we're going to do the same thing here. And that's going to stop the loop cut that we want for here. That way we could make here as sharp as possible. So we're gonna add that, and then we're gonna add that right here. Now if we hit Q, obviously in object mode, you can see that we're getting the shape that we want. But if you look closely, we have some pinching that's happening here. So to fix that, you're going to go into edit mode. You're going to go to back. You're going to press K for knife tool and C. That is going to allow me to cut straight. I'm going to make a cut like that. Hit enter. And then we're going to go into vertex mode, and we're going to hit J. Vertex mode. J. Now, sorry, we're getting some more pinching, but we're going to resolve that later on as well. And that could just be because if you look here, what the go again to back view. We go to 2, subdivide, then we go back to 1, G, move that. And as you can see, it resolved it, but we're still getting some pinching. Alright. And that is because of these two. So we gotta dissolve those. And if you come back, you can still see some pinching there. I believe that those two before were actually causing the problem, not really these lines here, these supporting edges. So as you can see, it's not as bad. As you have text in your reference image, do you yourself open yeah, the text here has some the reference image actually has some text. So what I would do is that I would open this image inside of Photoshop, or in my case, Affinity Photo. I use Affinity Photo instead of Photoshop. But I open it in there and I try to recreate the texture as a texture. So I would save it as a PSD, and then while I'm doing it in materials, then I would add it to this face here. But in this case, I might not do this part. There are certain parts of the image, for example, let's see, in this image there's a logo and there's some words there, and then at the back of it there's also a logo here. So I'm going to be using those logos, not necessarily this texture at the bottom, because I'm actually modeling this for a friend. She sells these bottles, so I was helping her out doing a little product rendering for it. So that's why I'm doing this. But we'll get there. I just want to rectify these modeling flaws here. Alright, so what we could do, let's go back into subdivision, see if that's adding a distortion to the mesh. Doesn't look that way. And if I go out of edit mode, this is the bottom. Right? Now, I go back into front. You're going to deal with that too. But if you go into front mode, then go into edit mode, turn off this, we see that we have this little ridge here. So what I'm going to do, hit Alt, then I'm going to Control B to bevel. We're going to make it to be about that. And then what we're going to do, we're going to hit I for inset. We're going to do it like that. And then what we want to do is go to one of the edges. We're going to scale it again a little bit to about there. And then what we want to do is hit Alt S, and that's going to allow you to extrude inner. There is fine. And then what we want to do is hit Alt on these faces and this faces, Alt Shift. And then we want to hit Control B again and roll it to 3. That's going to give us a bevel. And then in bevel, you want to zoom in as close as possible so that you can see what's going on. We're going to change the shade to 100%, and then we're going to add width and disable loop slide. And then we're going to adjust that bevel right there. We could add some loop cuts here as well if you want. But let's see how it looks with the subdivision. And that is not too bad. I actually prefer it like that. So let's leave it like that for now. And then go back into edit mode, turn off the subdivision. And even though I have on the quick selection, I still don't use it, but hey. Alright, so we have an issue here. And that issue is because of this edge slide. So what you want to do is we want to hit Control, making sure that we're on edge. We want to select that. And then we want to hit Control. But we don't want, again, what we could do is we could break that by subdividing that. That way that when we use Alt, we break it in this. But actually, we dissolve that for the moment. Dissolve edge. We're going to focus on adding, well actually we have a reference here. We're going to add that button now. So make sure that you're in face select. We're going to select these faces. Or we could select these because the button is relatively large, close to the edge. What we're going to do is this. We're going to I inset. Then we're going to right click, loop cuts, circle. Then we're going to scale it in a little bit more to about here. And if you don't have loop tools installed, just go to preferences, type in loop, get a notification from Blender, and then enable this. That's going to allow you to do what I just did with the converting those polygons into a circle. So now that that's done, we go in the front and we look at the reference, we can see that is about the size of the button compared to this part. And I know the size is a little bit off here, but remember that the image itself is actually at an angle. So I just lined up the shapes. If this was a flatter image, maybe it would have been that length, but it's close enough. The more reference images you have, the better. So we're going to go into write mode, and then what we are going to do is we're going to go to X-ray, And then we're going to E, extrude, and move on the back. We're going to take it about here. It doesn't have to be that deep. And then we're going to fix that curvature by hitting S, Y, 0. And that's going to flatten it. Then we're going to go to X-ray. We're going to add an intersection here again. And then for this face, make sure that you're in edge mode. Select that ring. Then we Control B and add a bevel. Make sure that you look into it to make sure that the size that you, oops, a little bit. You want to come down. It's very sensitive, and I believe that that's because I changed. So let's see, put this at, that should be fine, or try 4. There you go. That way, when you enable subdivision, you have a perfect hole with no distortion in the mesh. So if you look at it from front, or from the side, sorry, you can see that there's some deformation there, but you know, nothing in the real world is perfect. If you really wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case, what you would do then, oh dear, what you would do then is just make sure that you have enough geometry between here again, but I'm not going to add that right now. So now that is done, let's turn this off and let's add back our loop cut to be about here. As you can see, it's flowing inside. Let's see if that changed any of the shapes with the subdivision. And as you could see, what it is causing. So what we want to do is, let's redo that to see. So it's flowing through here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to subdivide this to break that. And then we're going to redirect. So this and this subdivide. That way when we add the loop cut, if you look at the back, if we add the loop cut, we have that. But if we look at the front, it starts right there. So if we go into vertex mode, what we could do is then, because that and that makes a hit J, that and that makes a J again, and now we have no shading issues, at least to my eye. Let's try a different matte cap. And we could see we have some good edge flow except that part there. But again, if you want to fix that, you could just add some more subdivisions to that. Not subdivision, edge loop to support the subdivision, sorry. So again, back to this. We're making some progress. So now on to the top. So again, front view. Tab edit. And you can see the problem that we have. So one of the things that we're going to do is this. So we're going to Control B. And we're going to add that. And then what we want to do is that we want to highlight this. want to take this face here. Matter of fact, we could take these two. And then what we're going to do is going to P selection. And then go out to edit mode, come out of X-ray. And if you look into our collections, we see we have two cylinders. So we call this cap. Then I will call this one bottle. And then we are going to save because we haven't done it yet. So we're going to save it as water bottle. Always make sure to save, just in case anything bad happens. Alright, so we're going to be focusing on this part for the time being. So what we could do is highlight this and press the question mark on the keyboard, and then we're going to edit mode. Actually, do that while holding the reference image. That way you could see both of them. Right click, origin to geometry, because it was down here. Now we could go into tab, turn off the subdivision surface, and then we could look at the reference image. So one of the things that I see straight off the bat is this. We're going to scale that in to about here. There's also another ridge here. So what we gotta do, Control R, Control R, Control R, Control R. And I know I could have rolled the dice on this one, but nothing is wrong. Again, I dragged that one there because you know what we're gonna do with this one. We're gonna do Control B. We're gonna bevel it, make sure, make sure it is only 2. We want to make it to about there. And what we're gonna do is go to the edge so that we can see how we're insetting. We're gonna hit I, make an insertion like that. Alt S. I knew something was wrong. This is why so you want to highlight this face. You want to dissolve that. Now we want to go back into object mode, select these two again, and hit question mark. Again, remember origin to geometry, then go to front view, and then tab out of that mode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add this little curve later. What we want to do is do what I should have done before. It's the same thing. I like this. G. Bring this down a little bit. Again, we want to hit Control B to add that. Then I inset scale on the Z. And then Alt S. You see that? That could be telling me something funny was going on. So let's do it over. And then hit Alt S. That's the result that we want, not the one that we had before. So about there. We're still in edge mode, so we select these faces, Control B, add 3 loop cuts, segments, sorry, and just make sure that they are the way that you want them. That way that when you use that, we have something like that. Again, with it aligns with that. Now, if we come back out of here, want to turn that off, edit mode. What we could do is we could add, actually, all you have to do is scale that in a little bit like that. Just like that. So on the top, we're going to change the reference image that we have here. So we're going to open. There's a couple that we could use. This one seems to be the closest reference I have. So you can see that when we insert on the top, there's a ridge. Then there's a part that is raised. If we look at, if we go to the front view, we see that there's a little dome here, which will be this part. And that has a little ridge here as well. So we want to keep that in mind. So looking at the reference image, make sure you're in face selection. Hit I, insert to about here. I insert again to about there. And then you want to hit I insert. I insert. And then we gotta fill in the rest. About there. So face selection mode, we know that this is the part that we want to extrude. So we extrude Z. We want to extrude about here. And actually, we could just take that straight down to about. If we want to see what we're doing, just go in front view. I think that is a little bit too low. Too low. So we're gonna bring that up. And then what we want to do is select, Control B. And that's going to add the loop cuts that we want, support that we want. And then if you take these, which will be this narrow part here, because that's where the glass meets the plastic. So we could do again is insert to make that a little bit thinner. And then E. And that we should be good. That way when we come out into edit mode, hit Q, you can see that we are already starting to get the shape. The only difference is that when we go into front view, we just have to make that dome. Also, if you're having that little bulging issue there, you could just take this and slide this up. And then add another loop cut. Not necessary, but you can. Alright, so how are we going to make this dome? Alright, we're going to go to face select. Then we're going to go to object. This is proportional editing. You're going to leave it on smooth, or you can choose sphere. Can't pronounce words today. So we're gonna go to front view, and then we're gonna hit G. And you see everything is moving. That's not what we want. So we just want us G and make sure that you see this circle, because this is our radius of influence. So we could hit it to about there. So G, Y. And I think what I want to have right now is the view, quad view. Let's see, where is it? Area, toggle quad view. And that is so I could see the influence that the radius that I'm influencing. So as you could see, about there, if I come out, you see I'm influencing more. So about here is fine. And I'll leave it to be about there. And then out of edit mode, then we could change our view again back into standard view. And now we have this. Isn't completed yet, because we have the model A inside, and then we have the model list trainer. But we are already at our end. But we want to make sure that we are adding as much detail as possible. So again, open. What we could do is look for a reference image that has that. So we could zoom in. And we could see the kind of shape. We could actually see this is rough material, and this is a shiny material. So that's why you have to make the separation here. So again, turn off subdivision surface for the time being. Control S to save. And then go into edit mode. Go to front. Select these faces, these vertices, sorry. Now edges. And then what we want to do is that we want to E for extrude, S, turn off proportional editing, S, but add a little thickness. And then before adding the remainder and detail in there, I'm gonna just go back to front view, turn on X-ray. Is it on? Yes, it is. G. I actually lost the selection. So go again. E, Z. We're going to take it to about here. Here's the time that you could also use edge again. And GZ. And that's going to lock it in that position. So one of the things that we're going to do before we even go any further, again, Control B. Add that for the support. Now we can highlight these again. Then we're going to hit E, cancel, S. And because we can't see straight in, we're going to have to, gauge it. I guess one of the things that we could do is look at it from the bottom. And again, let's see when we scale to about there. I just want to check to make sure that my normals are right. And they are. Red means that your normals are flipped. And in this case, let's go to standard. then you can see. Red just means that your normals are in the wrong direction. There's another way that you could check your normals if you don't know what your normals are. So let's go to here. You see normals. If you click that, these are showing the direction of your normals. So your normals should always be pointing outwards to the face. So as you could see, it's a big mess. You could actually make the faces smaller. So there you go. That's better, a little bit more better representation. But that's how you could check if your normals are pointing in the right direction as well. Just wanted to mention that. So this space seems to be adequate enough for what we're trying to do. Go to bottom. So what we're going to do again is that we're going to hit E for extrude, turn off that. We're going to G, Z. We're going to bring it up a little bit to about there. And then we're going to hit E again, Z. And we're going to bring it all the way up. Here's another use case where we could use quad view. So you see how I have that little ridge? It seems that way in the reference as well. I'm not 100% sure. But most of these bottles, sometimes they have that gauge. But remember, part of that is going to stop, and that's making room for this. So I'm actually going to leave it there because I don't have a accurate reference image to tell me if it is actually inside or outside. But looking at the reference, it looks like it sticks out a little bit. So I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm just going to hit F for now. Then I'm going to I inset. Same thing as usual. I inset. I'm going to make that little part there. Then I'm going to hit I for inset. I inset. I inset. Alright. So what we got to do now is then exit quad view. We're going to select this face. Control S for save. And then we're going to extrude down to about here. And then we're going to highlight these angles. Control B. And there we go. Now you may think that I'm forgetting something, but I'm not. I'm just checking to make sure. And I think that that ridge is a little bit too sharp for my liking. So if I do go into edit mode, I could actually highlight this, dissolve that, and see how it looks. Again, I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to undo. I'm actually going to bring this down a little bit and bring this from the edge a little bit more too as well. So you have enough room. And then go back into face, E, down to about there, Control B, to about here. if I try to look at it from an angle like that, I think the spacing is a bit too wrong. So again, we have that. What I'm going to do this time is going to hit I, insert, and then I'm going to GZ, tab out, see what happens there. Not quite. Easy. Yeah, I like that. I think that fits the form. Right. So we want to highlight, press C. We want to highlight these faces here. Escape. Well, let's do that over. That's about there. Then what we want to do again is E. And just about there. Control B. Bevel. Then what we want to do is add a loop cut here. And the reason I'm doing that is because there seems to be a space between there. So I'm going to try to replicate that by doing this. So if we go to face and then hit Alt S, but we have to hit E first, Alt S, we should have that little ridge. Oops. And yep, call that done. That's pretty nice. So Control S for save. Then we could come back out. Look at it from front view and make sure that we're in solid mode. And this is what we have so far. So moving along, what we want to do with this, excuse me, is again highlight these two and start modeling from here. So we go into X-ray and we delete these faces here because I don't want them at the moment. Faces. As you can see that we had an issue here as well. I don't know why it didn't cut through, but I dissolve edges. Front. Now if you go into edit mode and we turn off subdivision, make sure that we select these edges. Just want to bring them down a little bit. And then E, S. And now that we are looking at a different reference image, we're going to be looking at this for the time being. Alright, so I already extruded a little bit too big, so that's going to hit S. And around here, so Snowman, if you're still there, where you from? And we're gonna easy. That's just gonna give us stuff out there. Add some lookouts. There'll be fine. What we could do, Control B, as usual. Leave it to be about there. And then just to make that reach a little bit. Like that. So moving along. Let's shoot again. E S. And then what I'm gonna do, front view, easy. I'm gonna come all the way down. And make sure that snapping is on G. So that's about that. And we're gonna hit F for face, inset. That way. Let me add the subdivision on it. This is what we have. However, that is way too thin. So what we want to do is add a little cut here. And I think that that's about right. If it isn't, then what we could do is highlight the bottom, Control plus, grow the selection if the mouse is in the right place, minus, and then what we could do is scale, Shift C. So we want to go back into edit mode. Let's stripe it too. I think there's a little bit too sharp. Dissolve face, dissolve edge. Oh, I understand. About there. And now we have the inside of the bottle. So moving on, we have front, edit mode, we're gonna select these faces. Again, Shift D, P. I mean, I didn't have to do that. So, what I'm gonna do with this one is E. You could go to the right. Way too far. This is making the button. Add loop cut. I didn't have to add that there. But what I could have done, there you go, with NVIDIA buttons. Control B. There you go. We have the button. Alright, so we're making headway. So again, we're gonna change our focus to be the bottom. Going to edit, turn this off. I like these faces. Control. Actually, undo. Then Control plus. But there is some selections up here that I don't want. Brown, brown, brown. Now, making sure everything is good. We're gonna hit Shift D. Now we're gonna hit P. That way, we have folder. My cap locks are on because I keep missing clicking them for tab. Folder. And then we're gonna go into isolation mode. But before we do that, let's make sure edit. What we want to do is subdivide these two and then take these faces, extrude on the Y. And we want to take them to about here. And that is fine. Alright, so back into edit mode. Now we could select you by yourself. And then change the reference. I think this one. Let's use this one for the time being. So we're gonna look at this from the right hand side. And then go into edit mode. And then we want to be in vertex mode. So with this, what we're gonna do, we're gonna add a Solidify. And we want to add it. We go to front. We want to add it in the opposite direction. So about here. Even thickness. if we add subdivision to it, but this before, we're gonna get something like that, which is what I want. Let's just go out of isolation mode, front view, and go into right hand. That way, you can actually gauge how thick we need to make this. So, I would say this one 3. How about 2.5? I'll just left it. Yeah, 2.5 is fine. Alright. So again, we're gonna isolate that. Isolate these two. Go to right hand. And then what we want to do is G like that. Again, we may need to take this into this view to see. And then what we want to do, being the area X-ray, we want to highlight these. We want to go to the top. We want these faces. Again, go to front. Just make sure that tab, edit, origin, the geometry. Then we go to right hand view. Then we're gonna hit G, Z down. And then we're gonna make it fall off. Like that. Can highlight these two. And then take them forward. G, Y. G, Y. And again, let's try to drop that to about 1. Let's see, 17. G, Z. Control B. Because you can see that there's a hook there. Again, you want to highlight these faces here. Then go again to side view. Make sure that this is on again. G. If anything, try to bevel. Try to bevel those faces there. when we look here, we have something that resembles bottom. We have something that properly resembles that. So again, I want to make this a little bit smaller. So isolate, top, so what we could do is delete those vertices and then try to delete these ones. Delete. Whoa. I didn't know what happened there. Come on, NVIDIA. We don't need that software right now. Dissolve vertices. Alright. Doesn't seem to like that. However, this one, alright. So save. Actually gotta undo. Exactly. And now we have something that looks like this. But you gotta fix this one again. And then another look at. There. Alright. Now we could save again. Alright, so we're gonna be shifting gears a bit. Gotta go to the front view. Actually, let's just make this part here right now that we're here. And how we're gonna make that is by touching at this. This should be the center line. Then we're gonna hit I. Then we're gonna hit these two. We're gonna hit G. If out proportional editing install activated, GC. And then GZ. Then go back to face selection and highlight these faces. I'm gonna hit E. Let's turn this off to better see what we're doing. And then E again. There. And set. Now let's turn on that. Control B. Whoops. You want a corner just to make sure that we are adding that. And then what we could do is go and edit mode and see how that looks. It's not that deep in the reference. So front, edit. So then we could utilize this. Keep turning on. Here about. And now we have that indentation. It's not that big, but it serves a purpose. And one of the problems that we have in here again is that if we look here, we could bring up this a little bit closer. To match your reference. And no, it looks better. So save. Alright, so I think that that's good. One of the things that we're going to do now is that we're going to make, it's not your reference. This one. So we're going to hide, let's see this. So hide, edit, we're going to borrow. We're going to borrow from this edge. We're going to shift D, P, selection, edit. And then what we're going to do, cursor to geometry to there. And then what we want to do is go back into edit mode, turn off front, make sure everything is selected, E, C, and try to make a rough estimate of how thick that is. I'm not sure if I have any more references of it. I think that's just the one. So I just got a GZ to about here. And then E, S. Now we could go into this mode. We have some funniness happening here, so let's see if we could fix that. Shift N, that should flip your normals if they were doing like that. And now we have a basic shape. Alright, so for this, what I'm going to do is, again, go into top, then tab, edit. We're going to go into X-ray. We're going to delete this half, delete vertices, delete this half, delete vertices. And then what we want to do is add a mirror modifier and then on the Y as well. Why I did that is going to become clearer in a few. Let's enable that, turn off the subdivision for now. And then we're going to add some lookouts. So that will be about fine. And right here, And this is the center of this half circle here. And as you could notice, there are 4 of these little sections here. So what I'm gonna do is gonna hit I and set, gonna make a gap about that, go to faces, and we're gonna delete those faces. And then with this edge selected, you're gonna hit G, and I believe it is GX. Yeah, no, you want to actually turn on the normals, and this is where the normals come into play. And we go on the front top. And we want to make it to be about that. And then what you could do is bevel that a little bit. You can see all 4 corners have it. So we have that basic shape. Go back into edit mode again. What we gotta do is, now that we have that, let's go back out of that 50. That's gonna be our backup. Just in case. The reason that I said that is because we're gonna apply the mirror. And then we're gonna go into edit mode. E S E Z. And that's just to make a little ridge like that. Go back to global. Now what we could do is that we could turn on our subdivision surface to see how it looks. Crank that up to 2 or 3. And then add a solidify. Solidify. Big problems. That's okay. And we want right click, smooth, and that thickness should be fine. Again, what we could do is add some support links. So we can highlight this, Control B. So we got a shape like this. Now what we're gonna do again is go into edit mode. And right here should be the center. So we want to highlight this point and on the right hand side as well. Control B. Well, right click, shift, bevel. We actually don't want subdivision on at this point, neither that. So right where is it? We seem to have some sort of problem here. I'm not sure, but I get make sure that everything is right. Where's my distance? Okay. Bevel vertices. Oh, there you go. Control B. Control B. Wanna make that. Got an A. Q. And then I'm gonna scale that face 0.7. Scale 0.7. So that way we get something like this. Then we're gonna insert again. Insert again. And then delete those faces. Now we have something like this. Alright. So again, back into edit mode. We're gonna borrow some geometry from this again. We're gonna shift D, P. Edit. Origin to geometry. Scale again. Edit. Edit. Scale. Come on. Scale to 0. And then we're gonna hit merge by distance. Get rid of those faces, those edges. And then what you want to do is go back in to our so let's see. We want 4 rows of these things. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's okay. So what you want to do now is turn off this because this is bugging me. You already know that the places are flipped. So you want to do this. Select, checker deselect. Undo. So you don't have enough. So we have, it's supposed to be 10 of these. So G. Here. Stop playing. So if I select this face, 1, 2, 3. Need one more. This is this. I guess that would be fine. Alright, so for this, we're gonna do checker deselect. Again, checker deselect. But make sure that the offset is like that. Checker deselect. Where is it? Sorry. Checker deselect. Take this back to, and then checker deselect. And then what we're gonna do is that we're gonna turn these into turn this into that. Scale them. Well, no. Why is this not working like the last time? Anyhow, we're gonna delete those faces. I'm gonna select this little cat. This ring here. Now let me do this face. That's gonna make those again into squares. So maybe inactivate. We get something like this. They're a little bit oblong. Even thickness. Oops, that's a little bit too high. So we want to take this to 0.3. That's to give it a little bit of thickness. Those are nowhere near close to circles, but let's do that. So if we turn off these, and we come, let's say to here, let's see, select, let's do that for now. Let's see, circle. You see these parts here is what bugging me. So what I'm going to do is delete those. Right, so we want to delete those faces. Circle. Faces. Circles. Delete faces. And then turn them on. Okay, so now we getting the circles that we want. So this one, all we need to do for this one is scale like that. Check the select. Correct. Try doing it into circle. And then deleting those faces. Now we have the circles. In this case, we want to insert this a little bit so that we could have less distortion. So again, check out the select, delete, no, right click, circle, delete those faces. And now we have the inside part. Now we could add like 3 to this. And now we have this piece. So when we bring back this piece and we turn on smooth in, and then we bring this up a little bit, GZ. You can see that we're getting there. One of the things that I want to add to this still is if I turn off these again, so that I insert now I gotta add those with some displacement later on. Alright, so let me save again. Let me bring back this. And now we want to make the handle. So what we want to do is we want to add, you could add a curve, Bezier curve, GZ, right, or X90, scale, make sure this is in edit mode, and then GZ again, GX. And what I am doing is just making sure that when I go into edit mode, or right, so we want something like that, scale, GX. And I believe that this is tab GX. I want that to be right there in the middle. That's the origin of the curve object. So if you go back into edit mode, I'm going to GZ up, scale this a little bit like that, scale this a little bit like that, GZ. I'm going to add some segments to this to make it a little bit smooth. So let's choose 32. Then what we want to do is extrude and bring that to about there. And then scale this part and to be about there. Take this up a little bit higher and across, because that's the shape that we see here. You could then scale this a little bit like that. Then we're going to add a mirror. These two should be clipping. So if I take this, that's what we want. Now we could go back to the curves and then we could add a bevel. Bevel width. That is too big. Bevel width of 0.1 is good enough. we actually want to take this on the Y. Let's go into right hand mode. GY. And that should be able to fit in between there. Like that. GZ. So you could take up this profile to 0.5, 1.5, and that's going to make it flush within there. If that floats your boat, then rock it. So this is what we have at the moment. Want that off. So there we go. So it still needs some tweaks, because if you look at the reference, it is a steeper part right there. So what we could do again is go into edit mode and just scale this part in like that. And then or you could actually rotate it. And that's something like that. On this side. But then rotate it again. So something like that. At this part, you turn on X-ray. Should have something like that. And with that in the middle, then all you will have to do if you go into object mode is rotate that on the X. So lock those, apply. This was at 90. So we want to apply rotation and scale. And then if we just move this, if we just rotate this, we can see that's actually fitting inside the container. Or in this case that. So let me turn back on this subdivision. Is it on? Yes. And then if we edit this again, you could see that this part here is a little bit too close for comfort. So you could always go back in and tweak. Those actually look like two separate objects inside. So that's why I model it that way. Alright, so let's just put geometry to origin. And this one as well. Okay, that one is there. That's fine. See if come back out. I'm still not happy with that though. I gotta resolve that some more. So let me just look at that again and edit mode. So this shape here is bugging me a little bit. Maybe it's the rotation that has it. And then GX. I think we're getting the shape that we want now. I think that looks better. Yeah, that looks better. So what we want to do is we can save this as another version. So +1. Because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to apply these modifiers. Apply all. Apply all. Alrighty. And apply all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of them. Let's hide this one. Take all of these. Control J. Control J for join. No mess to join. Okay. I understand what happens there. Control J. This one didn't work because I didn't convert it to I need to convert it to a mesh first. So no, Control J. Alright. So if we then come back here and we enable our bottle by Alt H, then we hide the cap. We can scale this in, tab into edit mode, highlight everything, scale Shift C. Right, front view, because if we go back to one of the references that we had, if we check that, he's going to see that that's going to be recessed in the model itself. So we're going to hit GZ and we're going to bring this down to about here. Then go to edit, and we're going to highlight this part, and then we're going to rotate that on the X. Well, you know what? Let's make this a loose selection. Tab, and then origin. Let's edit that a bit. Go to front view, and then we're going to hit GZI right here. And again, go over here and lock. Now we turn this off. If you rotate this on the X, you could actually make it to go into the bottom like that, which is what we want. Right, so save. Now we got to add a little bit more detail to the bottle. We see that if we go into edit mode on this and we turn off the subdivision surface a bit, if we go into front view, and for this you just want to go into random color, and I'm going to change this again from that to the meta to the normal studio lighting ones. So as you could see, you want to add some detail. You want to add some detail here to make those little ridges. So let me hide this for now. And you want to add another loop cut here. And if I bring back that other one, what we're going to do is highlight these faces. And then we're going to scale Alt S. Well, no, we're going to E Alt S. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna highlight these faces here, X. Alt S. And then we're gonna connect to these faces here. And then we're gonna delete those faces. Then if we go into these faces, what we want to do is turn on these. I should have modeled those details earlier though. But if you turn on snapping, turn it to vertex. And just work around the mesh. So GG. And being that I have merge vertices on, these are all techniques that you could use to make sure that you have when you're modeling stuff. Another way that you could do this is by simply going to F, merge by distance, and increase that. But I don't want to do that right now because it may actually get some of the edges that I don't want it to get. Oops. G. Whoops. That was a far grab just now. It's a far grab. And again, we have to add some support here after we turn off that. And then if we go into isolation mode, you can see that we have that ridge there. So if we turn on our subdivision surface, we'd have that. But what we want also is the Control B. And then we're gonna make sure that our bevels are on. And now we have that little ridge in there. Alright. So we're winding down the modeling part. Just to make sure that everything is right. What we could do is just come over here again. And if we go into edit mode, and we go into bottom, right bottom, what you want to do is place your cursor here. Make sure that you're out of edit mode. you want to add a torus. It's a bit big, but torus. You're not going to add too much geometry to this because it's just going to be simulating the springs. Again, if we go back to the original reference image that we had, there's a couple ways you could do that, but I'm just going to use a torus for this model. So our Y90, I believe, scale, like that, G, X, apply rotation and scale. Then we're gonna make it smooth. I'm not even gonna add a subdivision service on this. We're gonna rotate it a little bit in this direction. Then we're gonna add an array modifier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're gonna add a little bit of space to simulate that. If you turn that off, you can see you actually want to turn off that just to get the spacing a little bit right. And then what I'm gonna do is shift V or GX, like that, rotate again on the Z, and then GX, GY, G. Again, something like that. Now I'm gonna add cylinder. That's gonna make this one 12 or Y90. Apply the rotation. And we're gonna scale this. Scale shift X. Scale shift X. Scale shift X. Bottom. Zoom in. Scale shift X. And we want to make something like that. If you go to back, we have something like that. Right click smooth, scale X. And we have something like this. These three, G, come up a little bit. Or what I could do is actually go into edit mode on this. Isolate it. Make sure that I have the faces that I want. Go back into isolation, go back into back, and just rotate that on the X, I believe. Oh no, just take it down. So it'll be about there. So GZ again, but not about there. And if we're going to right view, and then turn off that, but I turn on edit mode, origin. You actually want to place the origin to be about there, because that's where it's going to rotate, GY. GC. GY. That way, again, if you come here and rotate on the Y, on the Z, sorry, X, we have something like that. And that's the button that you usually press. You go to reference, you see we have something like that. It's a little bit more curved. Maybe I'll try fixing that, and then I still have to put more details there and that. But yeah, we're looking good so far. So we're 2 hours in. Apply that, 0. Save. And then you just want to add some detail up here. So just add that to the center. So cursor, this is like Control S, cursor to selection. Cursor to selection. Cursor to selected. Then what we want to do, well, matter of fact, just put the cursor into the center one time. So cursor to there, and then what we want to do is add, let's say, let's just add a plane, or X90, go into front view, right? Then we go to scale. Actually put this in this view, scale in the Z. And the reason I'm doing that is going to become clear in a few seconds. So tab, object, vertex, delete vertex. And now we're left with that. So what are we going to do with this? Again, go over to modifiers, screw modifier. We have it in this, in the Y. And the reason that we have it in the Y is because we didn't apply the rotation. So now we have it in the Z in the right orientation. And we want to take our segments up to 28. And then you could add this. And then you can rotate this on, let's go in the front view, rotate Z. To about here, but you see this 1 centimeter, I want to put this to be like 0.3. And instead of 360, usually with threads, they actually have a threads usually have a overlapping part. So again, I'm gonna do that like that. But let's see, let's go back to this and I turn this. So I know it's 90. Let me put it back like that. And the reason I'm gonna do that is because I come back over here and I go into edit mode. For example, first, let me just GZ and take this to where I want it to go, GZ. And then I could go into edit mode, select A, and then GX. That way, we have this. So all we have to do now is to add some solidification on it. And you could see that it's way too big. So add solidify, we come down. So let's say 1. And then if we go and we scale this on the Z again, we could get a much thicker, and then put this at, let's say, a 40. So that's what we want. Now we could add a subdivision surface on it, and there we go. I'm not necessarily going to make this into a boolean, so I could add some more thickness to this one. Let's say 1.8. No, 1.16. And then G, and that will be fused into the material. So now we could add the, let's say, a 2 on that. Then what I could do is then tab out, parent that the object. So if I move that, that goes with it. And that's one of the most simple ways you could do that. So again, rotate on the Z 90 degrees. If you go into front view, we have something like this, but leave it like that. So it doesn't really matter where that is located. Save. And if you look at that, that's what we have for our screw location. So alright, if we bring back some of our shapes, right, we pretty much have that. Now the only other detail that I may add right now is going to be in here. And the reason I say may add is because it may be a little hassle. So let me see. Do I really want to add it? I think I should. It's all a part of learning. So let's see how I'm going to tackle this. So with face selection mode, you want to highlight these two faces, and then we want to insert. Right? Now we have that insertion there. We want to turn that into a circle, and then you already see what's happening. But that insertion is a bit too big. So what I could do is I could scale. And just looking at the numbers at the top. 0.3 or circle. I'm gonna rotate that a little bit like that. Again, scale 0.3. And then turn it into a circle. And then change the angle on this. 30 degrees is fine. Then with this face selected, gonna hit play again. And I'm gonna rotate that. But on which angle we're gonna see? On the X. I mean on the Z, G, X. And now we started to get somewhere. So before I do anything, just let me take note of the numbers. R, Z, and what angle I'm going to rotate it on. So let's go with -45. That seems fine. And then G, X. It doesn't really matter in this case because what I could do is if I go out, highlight this, and I scale this on the X, I could actually modify that by going to the back and bringing that down a little bit. GZ. And then Shift S. That way, scale Z. We are in business. So G. So we got that there. GZ. Undo these two. All these two one time and then spread it down. Now again, we could use mirror modifier. That would speed up things, but at this stage where I'm at right now, yeah, I just prefer to do this. So I'll go back in here. Now what we could do is again turn off the subdivision surface so we can see what's going on. And we have that face is still selected. So we gotta hit I to inset. And these faces here, you could actually bevel those. See how that turns out. If you turn on the subdivision surface again, we don't want the bevel. What we want is a loop cut. And I mean a loop cut within this, within here. So we get that to about that. Let's see how that looks. I think that's fine. Let's do the same thing. This side we want to hit RZ 45. We want to eat that, and then we're gonna do GX. You actually have to shoot that to about there. If that's still selected, what we want to do is I inset, and then we want to hit a R for loop cut. Well, actually, no, I don't think I have one on that side. I guess I do. Forgetting what I did already. So that's that. So if you turn that on again, and we do that, now we have Now we have that. All right, so all that needs to be done right now is this needs to be brought down again. So go to back. I'm just going to drag that down a little bit more so it fits in the center. And I think that that's good. All right, so for the product, you're not necessarily going to be focusing too much on the bottom, but I just wanted to make sure that the details are in the bottom so that if I do an animation where the bottle is rotating, you see these things. If you want, what we could do now is we could just go, let's say I turn off these for the time being, edit mode, and we could go from the top view. What we can do here is just use the knife tool and hit C, cut a shape like that. So we're gonna fix that by going to edge. We're gonna put these, we're gonna join these edges like that. We're gonna hit M, merge that center. We're gonna go to tool, dissolve that edge, and then we're gonna do the same thing. So again, these two. Oops. These two J. And then we're gonna take these two faces. We're gonna X faces. That way when we turn on this, we have that. That little hole there. And then what we could do is that we could scale that in a little bit. Now we have that little hole. Is it? So I did something wrong. As usual, always on stream. So we're gonna undo that. So instead of deleting those faces, we want to take these faces up. So we want to E extrude. Just gonna make it like that. You're gonna look at it from the right. GY, straighten it up. G. Actually, easy. And the reason for doing that is because these, I don't even know what happened there. But anyhow, E. Let's hope it's right on this front now. And on the back. Okay, good. So back on the right. Then got an E again. And the reason that we did that is like, we go on the right, E. And then with X-ray, gonna highlight these two faces and just slide them down. So if we activate the subdivision surface again, we have some issues here. Okay. Let's see if there's, well, that merge by distance was way too big. Oh, I actually know what it's causing that, and it is the Solidify. So solidification is actually what causing that issue that we were having at the front. So we could add some more loop cuts in here. So we add some sharpness here. I don't want to add too much detail to this because at the end of the day, it's not going to be necessary anyway. So what we could do, we could try using the vertex group to exempt certain parts of the mesh. So let's go to back view and we highlight these parts here. Let's try adding them to a vertex group. Assign. That way the thing is not going to affect it. So if we add, then we invert it, we have something like that, but it's still kind of a problem. It looks ridiculous. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna undo everything. You already have a version of this. So what I'm gonna do is that's gonna apply in edit mode. That's gonna apply that. And then what we're gonna do here is just E, add something like that, and then E again. And then you got here, you could just, whoopsie. All you need to do is then extrude again on the Z. Turn off the subdivision so we could see what we're doing. E, Y. So sometimes you have to collapse them, but again, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You can't always keep it procedural. That's why you sometimes save in iterations. So G, like that. And then we can come back here. Could add our loop cuts with supports to add some sharpness. And then we have this. Sorry if you're hearing noise in the background. But this is what we have. So that is what we have. Again, if you turn this off, edit, because we still have these faces under here now, you could actually inner, extrude inner, and then extrude out. And then we could just add some support and then extrude inner again. So when we turn back on this, we have something like that. That more resembles that, but this is a more rounded shape. So let me undo because I want the square to be a little bit bigger. If we deactivate these, dissolve edges, come back to these faces, and we do that. E. E. There we go. Good. Alrighty. Happy with that. Again, I'm not. I like how that looks, but there's some shading issues. But again, nothing in life is perfect sometimes. And I'm still getting used to modeling in this 3D modeling, really and truly. So I see another problem that we want to fix before we go on to at least trying to shade this. So go to bottom. Go out to edit mode. You just want to rotate that. I did. Alternatively, what you could do is probably put a bend in the actual bar, but in this case, that is not necessary. So you're just gonna rotate it on the, and then remove one of those. Again, you could have made these springs with the technique that I use for the lid, for the threads. That technique will work for these as well, but it's about illusions sometimes. It's all about illusions. Alright, so I'm gonna call that that. So if anything, I'm gonna move on to some shading now. They're different colors, but different parts have different materials. So let me see if I open a reference. I think black would be the safest for the time because I will just make the other colors later on. I currently don't have these written, and I don't have Photoshop on this computer. I actually use it on my laptop, so I can't recreate these right now. But until I get maybe a better laptop that utilizes the program that I use, then that I could stream the same thing, then I would do that. But for right now, alright, Blender. So we're gonna go to front. We're gonna go to shading. Gonna close that. And then we're gonna open this black one. Right, so gonna change this to cycles, not octane today. I will do some tutorials on it later on though, but for the time being. So I usually like to shade with those off. So no, change this to cycles. don't know why it did that, but maybe just leave it back at all. So this is the body that we are working on. So let's go here and name that body. Again, caps lock is on the body. What is going on? My keyboard. Body. We're just gonna make that blackish color. This is not the best image for that, but I could tell. Let's go into cycles and let's just load the HDRI environment texture. HDRI. I like using this one, so we have kind of like the roughness that we want. We could then go into edit mode, turn this on. I like these faces. And then we got this, so we then want to go back to our materials and assign no. And that looks glossy, so I'm just going to take the roughness on that a little bit. So we have that. Again, the pattern. We can highlight these faces here. And then we could Control plus. And then assign this as well. Because I believe the button is white, isn't it? Yeah. I just want to name that white. So we have that. This is going to be the body. So maybe I should just call this black. Because the other materials gonna have their names as well, so we might as well just call it black. So we're gonna put black on this, and then what we're gonna do is highlight certain faces. So again, edit mode. I'm gonna isolate that one. Let me put Control plus a little bit. And then we're gonna deselect these by hitting C. Actually, just that should work. Again, we have clipping issues. What you could do, go into view. If you want to get that close, up close and personal, you could do these faces as well. And that should be good. So I'm not sure if I duplicated that. So I'm going to title this one Black G for gloss. I'm going to remove some of the glossiness from that. So what you want to do is come back to black, and then edit mode, add a new material, Black G, assign. And that gives us that that gloss, as you can see there. I don't want it 100%. There's another picture in here with this. This is this. So we could see that this also has gloss on it, but this is not just gloss on itself. This actually has a glass material on it. So what I want to do is go into edit mode, select that face, Control plus to grow the selection. Again, we're gonna add, assign new, and want to turn up the transmission all the way. We get some glass there, and then we're gonna take down the roughness a whole lot, and now we could see inside. So what I want to do again is I could go back into edit mode, I could select this selection here. We're gonna use this and just hit F. And what that should have done is created, that's looking for an angle. As you can see, we're going to the bottom, and as you can see, what that did is it created a face in here. And now is where I'm going to put the texture for the degrees. And if anything, I'm just going to create another material, assign that, so that when we go into edit mode or to this mode, you could actually see what's going on. So we could just type this and type this as the LED, so that when it comes to texturing, all I have to do is plug in the texture in here. But I don't have the textures right now, so let's go back to this and I just remove that. And for the LED, we could just simply just darken that so it looks like that. So we're missing another material from here. And if you go into edit mode, you see that what that is, which is this. So we're gonna hit Control plus, Control plus. Why is it not all? Control plus, and we're gonna assign this material. Now if we go back into object mode, you see we have that. No material, metallic. You know what? Let's try using and then we're going to take some air roughness though, but we're going to turn up the anatrophy. Never could pronounce that word right. Let's see if we could actually try to make some noise. I'm going to plug this into the bump. We're going to plug this into the normal. Whoops. And Control T. Height. Kind of getting something. Add a gradient. Not a texture. Color ramp, sorry. Get a mixed of it in materials. Just wanna, compress those. Make this a little bit smaller. Scale it on the. You stretch it. Let's try. Let's see. Is it tangent? I haven't used this method in so long that I'm not sure if it's going to work. But anyhow, it seems that way. Let's try all of them out one again. And then plug that into the height. And then you back here. I think you will see it better if you plug it into the roughness. But if you don't want it to be that harsh, so we take up this. Oh, take down this. And then we take down the, is it the strength? Not too sure. Oh, we actually getting it before I actually turned up the wrong thing. So that's my fault. Turned out to 100% and we were getting the result that we want. Because that was metallic. There's another view of it. That we were looking at before. Here it is. And then this is a brownish color. So this object is pretty popular when it comes to let's grow this selection there. You know what I'm gonna do, right? If I go to the modifiers, I turn this off. I'm actually going to go there, mark seam. That way I could just hit L here. Did not work. There you go. That way you could now hit I, Control I, invert, hide. That way I could select what I have to do in piece without selecting the other parts. So we want that. Go into materials, assign, new. Obviously when you turn this on, it's going to be back to normal. As you can see, it has that material on it. What we're going to do is just give it that kind of a brownish color. It was more of a tan color. And again, The subdivision surface. Rotation. Let's see if there's another HDRI that gives you better lighting at the bottom. I don't understand. Oh. So you need to add more red into this. You could sample the color too as well. But sometimes your eyes trick you. So I will take it to about there. Just a tad bit more red. And we should be good. Alright, so just bring back everything. We're going to edit mode. Edit. Let's hit Alt H to bring back everything. And then we want to solo this because this is not finished. So edit. We want to select. We're going to do the same similar thing. We're going to do that. We're going to mark edge, mark seam. And that's just a quick way to select a different part of the mesh that you want. We're going to come in here, add this material, duplicate it. And I lost track of this. Doesn't really have one that. So if you come in, we assign it. We actually have more of a metallic. Thing like that. The reason that I came back out is because if we hide this, we also have to apply it onto this. This is a steel. So I could know what to plug up in this. So you see, it gives you the illusion that it's part of the mesh, but it isn't. So this backup, we don't want to see that. This, however, has to get the steel, and this has to get the steel as well. So now we got this. And if we look at the bottom, two more things require the steel materials, and that is these little things here, and the cylinder. Let's just turn that off for now, so you can tell what I'm doing. There was pretty dark. And yeah, that's about it. So for this part here, if I, for example, if I was going to utilize that part for the 3D, for the label, sorry. Let's see if I could show you an example. And then I'm gonna close it because it's about 3 hours. So let's go to the front view. Let's say I wanted to use this as a texture for here. How would I go about doing it? Well, since I don't have the Photoshop file right now, what I would do is that I will go into UV editing. I will go to front view. And I would open up that image. Let's select these faces. You see them here. And then I would highlight them over here. GY. And bring them to about here. GY. GX, sorry. Scale on the Y, scale on the X. Scale on the Y. And then just move that up on the Y again. And then I will just make sure that everything is fitting inside here and there's no black. So there about. Then I will come back over to shading. We selected the white part. You go to texture, image texture. Control T. And then plug that into the base color. And then load up that image. And there you go. As you can see, it's not the best because this picture is very low res. Again, I couldn't really show you how to create it inside of Photoshop because I don't have Photoshop. Where I live, to get Photoshop legally is a lot of red tape. So I use Affinity Photo, but that is on my laptop. But you can see, you could get the same sort of look. And then, obviously, we have an issue with the button. So what we could do is duplicate that. Let's duplicate that. Let's use the button. Go to front view. I like these. Control plus. Minus. Then we're going to duplicate that. Before I duplicate it, just add that. Assign. No material. Let's give it this. I don't know why it came with the ambient occlusion on that, but hey. And that's pretty much that. Give that. Now the button has its own texture. This has its own texture. And we could do the same thing for the bottom. Where is it? This might not fit as well, but let's try it anyways. So let's go over to this, go to bottom, select this face. This is a new image. And we may have to, we'll see. Image, where is it? Is it that? No, it's not that. Here it is. So you project from view. We may need another UV map. So U, depth from view. Depth of view. View on that. I'm not sure why it's stretching like that. Not bummed so sure. Anyhow, let's just rotate this. Scale on it. Scale away. You could do a lot of pixel pulling here, but let's see what's gonna happen. Again, you want to be sure that this is a case where you have all these things already. So if I go to black image, and then I put this into the base color, Control T, UV, and then add this. Is it that? Is this? But then we now have to delete this and then apply UV map, and then try this one. We're getting some issues here. So what I could do to try to resolve that, let's give that particular material a particular part for itself as well. Sign. But you see what's happening? So the issue that I was having earlier is because I didn't apply my subdivision surface. That's why you're getting that stretching. So if I apply it, the only problem is now, it's that I have to go back in edit mode. I'm just showing you let's try to mark this edge as sharp as a seam, so that when we go to face, all we have to do is say L. Now we have that. We could simply come the material assign, turn off that shading. We have that. You unwrap project from view, rotate it 90, scale on the Z scale, and then just maneuver that and scale on the Y, so that everything's fixed. Right, so if you come back here, shading, and if we do image, it's texture, Control plus. Can't see from there for sure. No, that's what we have. Obviously, it's a little bit too big, but that's a technique that I will use instead of unwrapping everything. So yeah. Let's just go back here and make sure that we hit Control H. And why is this button like that again? These problems. But anyhow, you get the idea. Now we have this texture and model. So it's been a long time. This is the longest time I've been streaming ever. I'm gonna leave it on the channel later on. So anybody wants to get any tips and details and stuff like that, they could always check it back. What's timestamps and what's not. So yeah, until next time, I would see what else stuff that I could model and texture. Try to do it on Mondays or whenever I get a chance that I could do it. But yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching and hope you find it informative.